and everything with your podcast.
I'm a podcaster now,
Amazing. Do you
as
have
of right now.
literally episode 1?
Yeah, you're my first podcast,
Awesome.
and I'm a podcaster.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so I feel really good about it.
Good.
And actually, no, thank you so much, Tiff, because I was actually like, I need to talk out loud, but I was just recording before you just hit me up, talking to myself. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this on YouTube, but I'm like, I wish I could just talk to someone about this stuff because we need to start talking about it. But me talking to myself is insane. So, what did you see?
So on Friday night, we were driving through Oakland at like 10 p.m. And all of a sudden, we're like on the freeway and we see like these orange orbs sort of just like floating in the air. We're like, that does not look, it's not planes. Like, there's no like red or white or blue or none of that. It was just orange, but it was like kind of glowing.
Well, and
And
it
then,
was information.
yeah, and it was information. I think there were like 5 of them. My video, I think, only captured like 4 of them, but we like freaked out. We were like, dude, that is not, I know what that is. That is not it. So then I sent you the video immediately because I was like, Sirah's gonna know what's up.
100%. How long was it in the sky for?
It was for a while actually, because honestly, we got off the freeway because we're like, we got to look at this like not driving just to make sure because it looked hella weird. So we like got off, parked in a parking lot, and then they kind of just disappeared. But we saw this one that was kind of stationed, like float, just stationed. It wasn't moving at all, and it was by itself. And I was like, maybe that's like a tower, like off in the hills or whatever. But then all of a sudden, the other ones kind of like appeared around it, and then they left.
Oh,
It
so
was just weird.
they all gathered around the one guy?
Yeah, it was hella weird. It was just, I was like, oh, that's got to be like a tower because it's not moving. Like, it's not one of those guys because we didn't see them when we got off the freeway. And all of a sudden, like, these lights appear, but it wasn't like they moved into it. They just kind of like turned on their lights almost. And then, like, on the freeway, when they were flying towards us, some of the lights would kind of turn off. So I was like, oh, maybe they're like drones. But I was like, no, drones usually, why would they turn off the little like sensor?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I don't know what it was, but you got to tell me what it is.
All right. So, I can't, it was so funny. So I was like, oh yes, the games, let them begin. Well, there's a bigger story about all of what's going to happen. And then there's an even bigger story. So the reason I wanted to touch upon this is because you've been with me the whole time. And I just want to thank you for being my friend. Because I was thinking today, like, wow, for everyone, there was so many people that didn't want to be my friend anymore. And shout out to them too. But like for the people that stayed in my life and were like, all right, Sirah's gonna know what's going on. I'm like, wow, how much love like I was just thinking about like how much love I've received and like how grateful I am that you exist, because this has been such a weird thing that happened to me and I didn't really take a second to say that. I kind of just jumped in and was like, all right, let's go.
I love you so much. I mean, I'm so grateful for you, honestly. Like every time something like interesting happens, I'm like, yo, I gotta hit up my girl Sirah because I know she knows what's up. So
well, and so okay, so this is the real. So I dropped that song on my birthday, Don't Follow the Leader, and I didn't promote it or anything, but I just wanted to tell everybody, don't follow the leader. And the reason for that is because, okay, so do you know in those like OG videos, I believe it's JFK, he always talks about how the world would unite if they were under a threat from an outside force.
Who is that outside force?
Right, that part. And now we could make this, it's funny. I feel like that as time goes on, the less and less I become a conspiracy theorist, as I was trying to tell everyone, and the more logical I sound. So I'm so grateful for that also. But let's say that we were kind of noticing. Now, people might not be noticing still, but if you don't, then I feel like, yo, we got to do a wellness check. Something is going on, right? Clearly something is happening.
Yep.
Well, if you look at the agenda of what's happening, it's giving one world government. It's giving, it might seem like separation now that we're arguing amongst each other, but all of the governments of the world are becoming more dictator and more controlling, and we're all becoming a bit more, silenced or oppressed in different ways, and having a lot of our, rights taken away. As much as some people might feel like they're fighting for the right of inclusivity, if you actually look at the legislative effects that are going on, you'll see that we have less and less of a movement. So anyway, whether that's become clear to people or not, when he said, I always think what would unite everyone in a one world government would be the outside threat of other forces. And so with this project that, the squad is up to, these people, the United Nations, who passed Agenda 21 in the 70s, which, they passed it at a global level. The next part of uniting people against some sort of oppressive force would definitely be an invasion from an outside thing. And so when I've said don't follow the leader, it's because there are some plans to make us think that we are under attack from the outside, So unfortunately, as much as I would love for this to be like a thing, it could be like they could get us together and unite us under some sort of like, beautiful thing, but the way that they've been moving, I don't think that they have plans to do that. I think, throughout the conspiracy world, they call it Project Bluebeam. So Bluebeam?
Bluebeam. Oh, Bluebeam. Okay, yeah. So when you say they, who is they?
Well, there's a few different theys, I guess, when I talk about they, yeah. But in terms of what's happening for us right now, there was a group of people. And like I said, the UN got together in the 70s and they passed this thing called Agenda 21. Now it's called sustainable living, or what's the other word for it? I don't remember now because I'm so far removed. But that whole agenda made it so that we would all be grouped into smaller cities, so basically, for example, with Maui.
Okay.
They had a meeting to make Maui the first smart city.
Yo, I've been hearing about that in San Francisco. Like, yes. All the techie dudes are like, all the rich dudes are getting together and they're making these. I mean, SF is a smart city, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, I also want to hear about what you think about Maui too.
Well, so Maui, they had this meeting to make Maui the first like official smart city. And now Maui has been lit on fire. And interestingly enough, if you had a blue porch or a blue car or a blue umbrella, it didn't get lit up. And so when we look at these things, I think it's pretty clear, it could all just be coincidences. Like at the beginning of 2020, I know a lot of people had a hard time with what I was saying because it was just a bunch of odd coincidences. But as we continue to move out, you can even look in your local city and see the rezoning plans for the way in which they are enacting these smart cities.
Are all of the major cities doing this currently?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, these blue, is that what the blue beam means? It's like the laser that they pointed at Maui. They're like, yo, you're blue, you're cool.
You know what's crazy? I actually didn't even think about that, but yeah, it's all really on brand.
Right? Yeah, it's like, yo, you're cool. Like, I'm not gonna zap you, right? Like, let's,
Yes.
Interesting. They have a name for that blue color too. Like, there was like a specific shade or like specific name for the blues in Maui that I heard that I don't remember what it is.
Oh, I just got a flash of it. Why did I just see that?
There's like a specific hue name for that blue that like people painted so they wouldn't get like zapped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my neighbor just painted their house blue and I was like, all right, tight. When we're ready, I'm gonna come pull up with snacks and mob over daddy. I'm like, we gotta be friends, my guy. Or I'll just get a blue tarp, you know what I mean? Just wrap it up.
Okay, so what is this rezoning? Like what is a smart city? Why are they doing this? And what is it?
Well, a smart city, a smart city is incredible because you have full control over the population in every single way, shape, and form. So, people were putting these Ring cameras and all these things on their doors. And I'm like, bro, what are y'all up to? And I know everyone's into it, but if someone can hack all of these things. Someone can watch you. Someone can watch you in your home. It's so funny to me how much we've actually just jumped into policing ourselves with the smartphones and the smart things. I'm being watched at all times in my own home.
Mhm.
And so the smart city is just the next iteration of control, where everything can be controlled. And so this is a hard story. And it's funny because 5 years ago, I wanted to talk about this so in depth. I was like, all right, guys, you remember, I was like, we got to get together. I like mapped out the cities of escape routes. I like got a raft. I was like, I'm ready for the apocalypse. I bought all the seeds. I'm
I
prepared.
remember that. I was like, yo, just let me know and I'll hop in your boat.
I know, because it was crazy too. Looking back, I'm like, oh, I have so much love for myself because, like I said, I didn't pause. I was just like, all right, we got to get it done. But looking back, it's like I received all of this insane information all at one time. And it was just all so overwhelming. And I handled it like a champ. But in retrospect, I'm like, wow, baby girl, that was insane for you. You like gave up your rap career to look completely mentally ill to the whole world and like just jump ship. Um, but this whole thing is about control. And so the more and more we give up, the more and more they will be able to control every aspect of our lives. And they've already started it with China. So if you look at China, the way that they're modeling this, people can't be a part of society unless they're tapped into it. And I was even seeing a girl, she didn't have access to she hadn't signed up to I forget what they're calling it. It's just total control with the facial recognition
Oh,
and
yeah,
everything.
like they have the cameras outdoors and they're just like, yo, like you're here at this time, like
Yes.
they know everything. Yeah.
That's the smart city motto. And one of the girls wasn't like linked into the whole system. And her cousin had bought her, like put money on a card so she could go get food. And when she went to go do it, they scanned her face and said, this is not your card. So you will not be buying food.
No way.
Yes. And so that is the smart city model. We're just not really paying attention right now. We're going to think in the United States because we don't understand oppression. Like, wow, how convenient.
Right. Yo, is that what? So have you heard about like the Whole Foods and stuff where now you can scan your palm to pay?
That's what I'm talking
Is
about.
that what that is?
Yes,
Because I was like, yo, that's weird. I don't want to sign up for that. Like,
we
I don't
sh-
know.
we should not be signing up for this because if we sign up for this, we don't understand where the beginning and end is. But the end is total control. And so if I don't want to put my palm down and scan it, and that's just the first part, at some point you'll be required to put something into your physical body in order to scan it.
Yo, like chips and stuff, or like, is this like the whole vaccine thing, or is that like
Yes,
completely separate?
it's all a part of the same concept. And so it's gaining this much control and then gaining that much control. But because of heavy metals and things we don't understand, if you've put certain things in your body, and the technology has already been here for a very long time, you don't necessarily know how much you're being monitored.
Yeah, I mean, like they just I think like iPhone, some sort of iPhone model was like banned in a European country because of all the like weird 5G stuff going on with that.
Oh,
I heard
wow.
about
See, I
that
didn't.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're on the internet because I'm just in my head. I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about it, but I do kind of see these things coming around and I'm like, yo, that's kind of weird. What's going on there?
Well, I'm actually grateful too, because like I said, I was telling you, I think all this crazy stuff 5 years ago, just about everything. And I was really overwhelmed. So I'm so sorry if I overwhelmed you, but I was just like, this is nuts. But now I think even day to day, people can see that something's happening, that this isn't really making sense, and that we don't need this level of interaction or overseeing. But yeah, if the thing is remember how I also told you that money wouldn't be a thing later?
Yeah, you were like possibly crypto, some sort of like decentralized like money
Yes,
system.
because it'll be centralized. And
Right.
so
And
if we don't opt into this smart grid, like my physical money won't work anymore. So then I won't be allowed to go buy food unless I opt into whatever this consensus is. But what if I didn't want to get the vaccine? What if I didn't want to put my palm up to the thing? Then I'm no longer allowed to participate in society.
so what do we do?
Well, and so here's the good news. So this was the hard part. And that's why I was freaking
So it's
out.
all smooth sailing now. The aliens are coming in to help us. We're all good.
Well, no.
Okay, not that. All right, let's hear it.
So the hard part is no one's coming to save us, except us. But that is a beautiful story. So now, okay, so we talked about the 3D of it. The 3D of it is a bit challenging and it's a little bit hard to wrap our heads around. And at the same time, we're already living in this dystopian future in certain ways. You know, there's like carts serving food and people don't work at jobs anymore. And we're already experiencing this. From a higher perspective, we have been doing this game forever. And so what I mean by that is if you check out the religious books, they all talk about resets.
Resets, okay.
Yeah, so the last reset, well, there's been resets, but in the Bible, for example, it talks about Noah and a flood coming and a clearing and a resetting of society because certain things just hadn't made sense. So what if, I'm just going to play a hypothetical game called What If, but what if we were souls that lived forever? And what if we chose to experience a video game called Planet Earth? And inside of that game, we had the illusion of separation, the illusion of not enough. What if the souls had come here to transmute the human body, and instead the human body had transmuted the souls? And so we had forgotten who we truly were and what we were here to do. And we'd gotten lost in greed and ego and materialism. Well, then potentially we might devise a very bizarre way in which to wake ourselves up to the truth of who we really were. And so, oddly enough, that could be what this is. We could be souls who'd forgotten that we're playing a game. And we have decided to write a very bizarre story about how to wake us up to the truth of who we are. And because we're doing a quantum jump through consciousness, unfortunately, we need really bizarre things, right? So the alien invasion and the this and that, we wouldn't have stopped being attached to our own slavery if it wasn't such an insane story.
Right. So you're talking like the most recent event was this whole COVID thing, right?
Yes.
That shook stuff up. Now the
Yes.
aliens are coming next.
Yes.
Which, by the way, you actually told me about COVID, not specifically COVID happening, but some sort of like pandemic event happening years before COVID. And I was like, all right, what's going on with Sirah over here? And then you were telling me how you had like visions of like tanks rolling down the streets. And I was like, I don't know what world this is, but this sounds a little bit like off. And then, Black Lives Matters happened, right? And then I think the last part of it, you were like, yo, the aliens are going to start showing up and the government's going to start getting involved. And there's going to be like, they're going to try to like play games and use that as sort of a form of control. And I was like, mind blown, but here we are. Here we are, literally here we are. So,
that's why I was like, wow, this actually has been nuts, because I didn't take a second to tell everybody, yo, I thought this was crazy too. And I didn't know if I was having a mental breakdown, but because I'm such a team player and because my whole life has been a bit challenging, I just jumped right in. I said, all right, well, here we go.
You're like, here we are and bring it. Let's go.
I was like, well, either I'm mentally ill or I really need to help us all get ready because this is what I was told that I was here to do.
Well, so far, like, in the beginning, it sounded a little interesting, I was like, maybe, possibly. But as every single like major event that you kind of like had visions about, years before they happened, started to come true, I was like, yo, I gotta talk to this girl. Like, I gotta figure out what those orange things I saw in the sky was. Like, we need an update. So,
well, and that's why I could cry, Tiff, because I'm so grateful to you. Like, I've over the past few years talked a lot about people that really left me in a hard spot, right? Like I would say 95% of my friendships ended. And they ended in ways that it would have been fine. Like, I love people who are just like, I don't know what's happening with you. I love you, and I'm just gonna ride this out with you. I don't believe you. I don't not believe you. I'm just like, are you good? because that's what I would say to
Yeah.
someone. I'd be like, all right, this is but I would also pay attention. And that's why I'm so grateful, because that's all I've done for myself. But also, I just want to honor you because you have done that with me and it's meant so much to me. And for this whole time, I had become so isolated in my own experience because I felt sad about the people that had projected all this chaos onto me, and they gossiped about me and they did all these things, and they didn't realize how psychic I was, that I cried myself to sleep listening to what people were saying about me, that I didn't just have to deal with their projections and their ignorance, that I also had to deal with my own grief over what was happening to me, if that makes any sense.
That
And
makes all the sense. And I just want to give you, I wish I could give you a big hug right now.
but you have, and that's it makes me cry, because you have, and you haven't known that, and I want to honor that because you gave me so much. Oh, you've given me so much. And there's a few other people that have like really given me so much. And it's time for me, because I've healed all this stuff in myself, to like say that to you guys, because it's that difference that changed my life. Like, I really didn't want to be here because it was so painful in so many ways that I couldn't even explain to people, because they were like, you're having a mental breakdown. And I was like, I might definitely be, but also, why do I know what you're saying about me at all times? And could you just pipe down a little bit to let me breathe? Because I don't know what's happening to me. But, so it's the people like you, and you specifically, that literally gave me so much joy while all this was happening, to allow me. And also, we were talking about, but when you were seeing what I was seeing when you were engaging with me, which I was,
Oh, yo, that was wild. All right, when you were like, that was so wild. So I don't, I think you were talking about the Confederation or the Federation
yes,
coming down or something like that. And I was like, yo, what is this? What's going on? I think I was like, it was in the middle of COVID. I was living alone and it was like at nighttime. We were like FaceTiming, and all of a sudden, like my phone like glitches and it's like the screen turned black and there was like flashes of like weird shadows going on, and I was like getting creeped out because I was like hearing all of this for the first time from you, and you're like, no, they're chill, they're always here, like chilling. And I just like freaked. I was like, yo, what was that? And you were like, oh yeah, see, they're here. Did you see that? And I was like, bro, like what the fuck is
it's
that?
going on. I was like, well, it's just my new friends. I don't really know
Yeah,
either.
you're like, they're just always here. Like they're just saying hi. And I was like, yo, this is some weird stuff happening.
It was insane. And that's why I'm so grateful to you, because it was happening to me too, all the time, and I couldn't really explain it, but it was like, wow, bro, this is nuts. I'm having a crazy experience, and some people were willing to be with me in that. But this is why I'm so excited, and I'm actually really grateful that I was quiet, because I was also putting the really scary parts out there. And that's okay, because this shit was really scary at the time. And I'm not saying that it won't be challenging. It actually is supposed to be challenging. So there are things, but the good news about this is, okay, so this is what's really wild. Since we last talked, I've gotten very biblical. Okay. The reason for that is because all of these religious books were put here by us through the process of reincarnation. We have been writing this story the whole time, coming here, learning, teaching, sharing. And so all of these religious books were put here for this moment. And what they are is they're a book about quantum physics and about love and about what will happen. Now, obviously, you have to, read them with a little bit of, like, we don't do verbatim, because these books were also rewritten by men, right? So we can't get all like into the depth of it. But what if Christ was back?
What does that mean? Like you
I
told me that
know.
the other night, and I was like, aren't we the universe, God, Christ, all of that, like whatever you want to call it, like aren't we it?
Yes, we are.
So that's what you mean? Oh, I get it. So
Yep.
we're here. Like we are
Yes.
coming home
Yes.
as ourselves.
Oh, I got chills. We are coming home as
Get it.
ourselves.
I
And what
understand now.
is wild, oh, I really have chills, but what if Christ was an oil that lived in your tailbone?
Tell me
And
more.
right, what if there was an oil, iktos means Christ in Greek, and what if that oil lived in our tailbones and through this process of ascension started to rise up our physical bodies? What if transmutation and the Holy Grail was an actual alchemical physical process that happened to us that helped ascend us into a higher level of consciousness? What if we'd been lied to about the way that we jump through evolution? So there is an oil that lives in our tailbone.
Is it a
And
living thing?
yes, it's a seed. It's a seed of faith, and it's a living thing, and it's a consciousness, it's an energy. And that energy, if we don't disrupt it, creates the energy of an atomic bomb. And so it moves up through the 33rd vertebrae, right? Christ died at 33, he was crucified. But what if it moves up our tailbone and moves through our chakras as we heal them, as we clear them, and continues to move up and hits the pituitary gland? And if we don't release our seed, and we don't drink alcohol, and we don't eat meat, it continues to rise up and then mixes with our pineal and becomes an energy that is capable of anything. And
So that's Christ.
that's the return of Christ.
That's like he's risen.
Yes, Christ is rising. And so when they, told me, God was like, you're here to teach the ascension, I was like, wow, that's lit. I had no idea what that meant. And then even I still didn't read any of the books because I was so caught up in like the hard parts of the story that I only really got into the spiritual books the past like 2 years. And I was like, holy shit, Sai, the whole thing is here, bro.
Yo, so when are we making this like movie about just your life and everything? I mean, we're living it, but like
we really have to. And then I was thinking, wow, there's so many people to like interview because this has actually been nuts. The people that have
like literally, like, I mean, I met you through the music industry, right? It's like years ago, like probably been like 10 years, I would say.
Yes.
Right. And then, I think you started moving towards like, or maybe you've always been like spiritual. I didn't know you that well back then, but I remember you had this like thing in the park where you were doing like meditation sessions and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is like really grounding. I love like how like your energy just felt so good. And then fast forward to like a few years before COVID, all this stuff was happening with you. And it's been a crazy journey, and I know you have like way more stories from your life, past, but like your life has been really, really, really filled with lots of things. That's like I feel like it's brought you all up to this like point, and
it's so wild to me in retrospect, and it's been a really emotional 2 weeks because, like I said, I think my whole life has been a marathon, and it's kind of like going on tour, but it's like I was running and just trying to help people and just be okay this whole time, that I never took a second. And like when you come back from tour, all of a sudden you get the flu, you can't move, you're like, you know what I mean? It's like
everything just hits you all at once. You're like, I'm a potato.
Yes. And you're like, wow, I can't believe I just did all of that, and I can't believe that all of this happened. And you kind of almost have like a, not an imposter syndrome, but maybe you do depending on where you're at. And but for me, this past few weeks of September, it was almost like I've been running this marathon. And when I look back at my entire life, the whole thing was about this. And finally, for whatever reason, I could just see it all so clearly and could just grieve it all, but also appreciate it all. And so that's why I had to start speaking again. And I was so grateful that you hit me up, because I was like, oh, I've been afraid to talk out loud, but it's time now. And I have to tell you, so this is what's nuts about the whole story. First of all, I've been journaling since I was 6. I would write at like 8 years old, like, you're going to be Oprah Winfrey and help save the world.
You get a world, you get ascension.
I don't know if it was my childhood trauma that was doing that or what it was, but I was writing to myself in third person, like, don't worry, don't take these things in. All of it is a learning lesson for later. Like,
Yo, do you have these journals?
yes, it's
That's so sick.
crazy. Then 14 years old, I was, cooking meth, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, selling big drugs, whatever. I go to school for maybe like 2 weeks, bro. I end up writing a play, and I'm not even kidding. I have the artwork somewhere in here, and I draw out the cover of the play as people with masks on, and it says unheard voices. And I kept drawing the same picture over and
Yo, you gotta
over.
find that.
Bro, nuts. It's all in here. I've been making a movie and saving every little piece of my life. And I was like, wow, Sai, I think it's for this moment. And then when I did motivational speaking, I spoke for probably 10 years straight in every state and most countries. I used to tell them, I can't even believe it now. I used to tell them, oh, when I did drugs, I thought that there was a reptilian empire coming to kill us all.
I mean,
Bro,
I
she's
mean,
always been right. I just wasn't willing to be in self-acceptance, but yeah.
but we're here now in this moment, and it's beautiful.
And it's
Like the other day when I texted you, I was kind of freaked out. I was like, "Yo, it's happening. Whatever Sai said is happening right now."
I
And
know.
I just got to confirm. And I got to catch up with her. She knows a lot more about this. I'm sure she's like learned a lot more too since we last spoke. So
Yes.
I was freaked out, and you were like, you know what? But this is like what the beauty is, right? It's the part about like we are here. No one's here to save us. That's scary.
I know.
But we are here to save ourselves. And you just kept saying it's such a beautiful story. And until like this moment, I was like, I don't know about that. Like getting taken over and like all of that stuff sounds a little scary, but I can feel it. I
I
can feel it
know.
in this moment of speaking to you and just like kind of, hearing more about it and stuff. And it just makes sense.
Well, and I know it's scary. And I think that that's why I cried a lot for the past 5 years. Because I was scared. But you know what's beautiful? And this is what's so incredible is for anyone who is religious, I think that they probably have this. Well, actually, you know what's funny? I don't really know many deeply religious people. My mentor is Mormon, but we haven't really talked about this. But I was thinking, bro, y'all got all these books about this time. What did you guys think about this? Because these books, I grew up with the medicine man in the woods with heroin addicts and nudists. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I didn't read any of this. And
Yeah.
when I did, I was like, the world is giving end times right now. So I don't know what everyone else thinks is happening while we're still all pretending, but it's definitely giving like the energy. But this is what is so cool to me. This is just a wrap up of karma. That's it. We don't have to reincarnate in pain anymore. We get to live here in joy, peace, fulfillment, and remembrance of who we are. This whole karmatic reincarnation thing has been very painful. So we actually get to enter heaven on earth. And that's an incredible thing. So the fear, for me, I have no more fear. And the reason for that is because if I stay within the laws of karma, nothing can happen to me. That's the point.
Yo.
That's it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
the whole kit and caboodle, which is why it might be challenging for some people in terms of not eating meat, flesh, right? Like I didn't teach everyone that. That happened to me 5 years ago. They said, you're done with this. And then I had this crazy dream and a cow came to me and it sat cross-legged like we were doing an interview and literally just like that on a couch. And it said, you're eating my slavery. You got through all your own childhood trauma and then you decided to put my trauma into your body.
Yeah.
Energy never dies, it just transmutes,
Yo, trauma tastes so good though.
Oh my gosh, I love trauma so much. Chick-fil-A trauma, girl,
I eat more chicken though.
let me tell you about the Chick-fil-A trauma. Miss it. But with my clients, so I didn't get anyone to go off of meat or fish this whole time.
Yeah, you were telling me I think like you had started to, this was like at the beginning of your expert. I think you had like just started sort of,
I went off,
you went off.
but I didn't
Yeah, you didn't tell. You're like, I was like, oh, I want to try it, and you're like, start if you. It's hard for you. Start with fish, maybe,
Yes.
and that
But
was hard for me.
oh, I loved fish so much. I still miss sugarfish so much. But I will say the reason I have to start talking again is because if I don't now, then I'll be incurring my own karma because
Mm.
September was the beginning of a new time. And so,
This past September,
yes.
for you
So
or for all of us?
for everyone.
Okay, tell us more.
So for my clients, I started like August, I started transitioning everybody off of meat to fish, but I also told them I have a feeling like September is about to be a different time and it's time to stop
Even with fish,
with everything.
with everything,
Um,
so just veggies,
yeah, just vegetables.
vegan or vegetarian.
I'm vegetarian. I eat cheese, but you know what's crazy? So string cheese I've been eating. Look, I'm not a good vegetarian, so if there's any vegetarians, they're very passionate people. I'm just doing what my head tells me. I'm just neurodivergent, okay? I don't know what I'm doing,
I get
but
it.
I'm just pulling up. I'm doing my best and we'll see what happens. I'm not the guy voted most good at anything. So I was eating string cheese and I've been eating cheese. I eat honey. I drink raw milk. I do all these things, I have to tell you. So, and that's been fine. God, everybody let me eat my string cheese up until literally, I think like 2 weeks ago. And I did a meditation. They said no more string cheese. I said, wait, you can't.
Literally string cheese. Like specifically, no more. You've been eating too many string cheeses, girl.
Well, because I eat a lot. I eat like 5 string cheeses a day. I love string cheese. Like it's a real hearty staple for me. And I
Mm.
go into meditation, they're like, no more string cheese. And I was like, what did I do something wrong? And I was also like, you can't tell me that cheese also comes off the menu. Like I've been letting go of things, like, you know what I mean? But I'm like, cheese, no cheese too, bro. Like we gotta do no cheese. They said no more string cheese. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck? What happened to the string cheese?
What happened? Tell me.
Well, so I go and look it up. String cheese has animals in it.
What do
It's
you?
got like cow enzymes, like the stomach of a cow is in string cheese. Everything here they've distorted and
Yeah.
put all these weird things inside of it. So the next level for me, I guess because September was coming, they just wanted me to get even like clearer and clearer because
Mhm.
anything I do, I will, anything I'm hurting or participating in hurting, people, places, things, thoughts, ideas, I'm going to have to pay for it. And it's not a punishment thing, but if you do read the Bible or any of these books, it sounds like God is an angry God.
Mm.
Well, it's not that. It's that we are closing our own game of karma. And we don't want to get more karma because if you get more karma, then you have to physically get recycled again and come back in. And for the people who choose not to get out of karma, that is a very harsh thing that'll be happening.
So now, a lot of people are talking about like a lot of people are transitioning into like veganism and all of that. Like, do you think in our future sort of like state that we've left the world in, like, is it going to be sustainable for all of us to switch over?
Yes, absolutely. I think it'll be very sustainable and also the only way. Now, again, this is a story about taking responsibility for ourselves. So it's a bit challenging in those ways because we actually have, like I said, been attached to our own slavery, right? So we don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. We don't want to become educated. We don't want to make our own things or be a part of that. I personally will never eat anything Bill Gates puts out. I will never. Well, he's got all the Beyond burgers and the
Oh,
fake.
that I have no idea. I don't know any of that.
He owns fake meat and is a part of that.
What's the thing about the like 3D printed meat or whatever that's coming out? What is that?
Yeah, that's a creepy thing. They're gonna
What
try
is
and
that?
do all this weird stuff. I don't know, but did you notice? So when we were growing up, we ate candy, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And it had sugar in it, and
Mm.
then I don't know, fructose. Okay, and then we were fine. You look, I wanted to go buy some peanut M&Ms the other day. I was like, I know y'all are not gonna let me do all this, right? And they said no. And I said, what, can I like not have sugar? It's not like that serious, by the way. I'm only talking about this just because I want to be better. That's the truth. I want to be the best version of myself. Like I've let go of nicotine, you know, alcohol, anything that I could put in me, I don't, because I really want to feel, the more I give up, the better I feel. It's not about anything. There's
Yeah,
no like weird religious piety here. It's actually just that I love to feel good.
that makes sense. Yeah.
But when I flip the M&Ms over, bioengineered, then I'm
Wait,
looking at
what?
all the food, all the candy. It's all
Wait,
bioengineered.
bioengineer. What does that even mean?
That is exactly what I mean. So we are complicit in our own failures here. That's kind of the point, is like if we're still going to put these things in when it says bioengineered, like we have to. Even then I came home, I was like, all right, well, fine. But I had some chocolate chips and I bake all the time. I was like, all right, we'll just have a few chocolate chips. Well, guess what? Nestle bioengineered.
What does that even mean,
I don't
bioengineer?
know. I tried to look it up, but then I was like, y'all are just not being too specific. Then I went to the grocery store a few weeks ago. They have the Spanish market. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'll get some plantain chips because I don't know, it's bananas or whatever. Fine. I come home, I flip them over. It's got the P65 warning for cancer. The things in here are known to cause cancer. I was like, what? What are
It's
we
in a
eating?
natural banana, like it's just literally baked, right? It's like strips
Yes.
of bananas baked.
Yes. P65 or 95, whichever warning
Yeah.
for the state of California cancer, it's in the chip. So yes, it's very sustainable. I'm growing zucchini right now in
You're
my,
telling me about your little potato farm.
I've got a potato farm in the parking lot of my apartment building. I'm hoping nobody comes for me, but they're going to want my potatoes later. So just holler at your girl. But, you know, we are fully capable of creating a sustainable world. We have allowed these higher entities to take control of everything and completely take the food. You know, 1994, I believe they started GMO foods. Well, when we look at our population today and all these kids suffering from depression, obesity, just all sorts of mental illness, I have to wonder, genetically modified food literally changes the sex of a frog. It turns into a woman when you give it enough genetically modified food. Are we really clear on what this is doing to us as a society? And why did we start doing this?
Well, we're not clear. They
Oh, they're
they
very clear.
oh they know what they're doing. We should ask like Bill Nye, Monsanto, like all those guys are very clear. All of them know.
Yes. And
There's something going on.
it's very big. And that's why it's our responsibility now. Because, you know, we are, I don't want to say at war because it just makes it like so like intense. But, you know, this is a war on consciousness for sure. This is it's time for us to choose ourselves. We are coming to save us if we decide to wake up. There's no one that's allowed energetically or otherwise to step in and change this because we are souls. You know, the one thing I really struggled with all my life was codependency. I love to try and save everyone from everything.
Captain Save a Ho too.
Oh, it's just
That's
been
like
so,
my thing.
oh my gosh, I loved it. I saved all sorts of things. I've collected children and raised them. And, you know, I've like really outdid myself. And I found, not that that's bad, that's great, but that is so wrong. Codependency is so wrong. And the reason it's wrong is because, again, if me and you are sitting on a couch in heaven right now, whatever you want to call it, whatever, and we decided to play a game, it would be like me taking the remote out of your hand when you're playing Mario Kart and you're trying to hit a railing.
Yeah.
It's rude. You wanted to play Mario Kart. You wanted to hit the railing. You decided to jump out. You're playing Grand Theft Auto. You wanted to rob the lady and do the thing. Why am I going to get in your way? You know what I mean?
Right.
And at the same time, how am I going to think someone's going to come and save me in my video game?
Well, we're the heroes, right?
Yep. We
We're
have
the
to.
heroes in our own video game. So
Yep.
now let me ask you this. Who is they again? Like who is they and why? Like, right? Why? And are they souls just like us? Are they like aliens, hybrids? Like why are they doing this?
Ooh, so some of that is still a longer story that it it's a lot to digest still. So I will do a more abridged version for now.
Okay.
Because because like I said, we're still waking up. It might be a bit much if we just popped into the whole project. I will say that at the beginning of my awakening, there were certain people that I really hated, and I thought they were very bad people. And my head said, "You don't talk bad about those people." And I said, "What do you mean they're stupid and ignorant and hateful?" And they said, "No, they're taking the L for humanity."
You actually told me that,
Yep.
and I didn't. It was hard for me to understand that.
It was very hard for me to understand that as well. But there are different roles inside of this experience. And let's say that this group of people um, had a certain belief system. And on a lower 3D level, we could say that it's very wrong what they're doing, because it's causing a lot of pain and division. But again, from a higher perspective, if my soul came here to evolve and learn certain lessons, I would need an oppressor in order for me to find my own. In any heroic movie, there's always an oppressor, and without the oppressor, the light doesn't shine. So it's a bit challenging, and it's important to honor all pieces of ourselves as we move through this. Like I said, I've had to grieve so many different ideas, belief systems, people, layers, myself. But through grieving all of those different realities, I've been able to heal. And that's the point. I used to think we were going to stop this. And that's why I was like, we'll get together, we'll do it. And I even tried to tell some people about it, and they said, "You're not going to stop this." And that was actually my first validation. I said, "Wow, you didn't tell me I'm crazy. You told me I'm not going to stop this. What do you know that I don't?"
Wow.
Well, some people know some things. And but I thought I was going to stop it. Not I was going to stop it. I thought we were going to stop it. That's why I've been given this information. The reality is this is going to go the way it goes, because inside of our bloodlines, there was racism. Inside of our bloodlines, there was homophobia. Inside of our bloodlines, there was a hatred for men. There was a hatred for women. We've been imbalanced. And the only way to get to the middle is through healing our own polarity. And so sometimes things need to become insanely in discord in order to come to the middle, so we can grieve all of it, so we can actually end the game of karma. If we didn't experience all this, we wouldn't heal it. It would still be there. We just wouldn't talk about it. So the awakening, unfortunately, comes with all this weird stuff so that each of us can look at all of it. But also we have to ask ourselves certain questions. Are we dealing with things correctly, right? With the Balenciaga thing,
What was that?
well, when Balenciaga had this whole conspiracy around childhood, sexual deviancy,
Oh, yeah.
and the court cases were in the actual photos, and it said ball, right? What did we do with that as a society? What are we doing with this information? Are we still wearing Balenciaga? And that's part of what I mean about the laws of karma. With certain things, have we healed those things? Have we looked at our inherent racism? Have we looked at society and the way these roles are inflicted? Have we healed it? Or is there certain things that we don't want to heal, that we haven't woken up to? Because again, in the laws of karma, everything that we don't want to address, heal, or look at, we will have to pay for, either collectively, together, or separate.
So the they that we're like talking about are the people that don't want to take responsibility.
Well, actually, they already know what's going on. And so, from a higher perspective, what if they were trying to force us to wake up, because we as a society have actually allowed ourselves to be oppressed because we don't want to take responsibility? So, I know that's a hard perspective, but that's the perspective that's why they said you don't talk bad about these people. Because, and actually that's something I've had to heal in myself. But when I first woke up to all this and I went around and told everybody, nobody wanted to listen. Then when things started to happen, people still didn't want to deal with it. And I don't mean everyone. Obviously, a lot of what I was saying was very inflammatory and challenging. But what I mean is, are we still wearing Balenciaga in the mainstream media? If we are, then we are actually the problem. So the people doing it to us, yes, they're highlighting something horrific that they're up to, but we're still supporting it. So is it the chicken or is it the egg?
So I mean, basically everything's just sort of a mirror, right?
Yes,
Like, this is all just a mirror of things that we need to heal within ourselves. And so
exactly.
instead of being like, yo, that's their problem or they're the ones doing this, right? Like it's more like, well, if we're all in this dimensional like mirror, everything's like gonna be a mirror of like the things that we need to heal within ourselves. And it's
Yes.
kind of like, well, what am I doing about it?
That's exactly it. And that's why it's challenging, because people are upset, and I get it. I was a product of sexual abuse, and I've been kidnapped, and I've had all these things happen to me. So these things are very inflammatory from that perspective. At the same time, I have had to heal every piece of me and continue to say, well, again, if this is a mirrored reality and this is my soul's evolution of something I chose to come here and experience, then what am I being shown? So yes, my oppressors are my oppressors, and at the same time they are my liberators. Now, people are not going to love that concept, but again, that concept is, we have been reincarnating forever. We have been the oppressor and the liberator, and that is a challenging reality, just from where my neurodivergency lands today, but that is what I've been taught.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I can see how it would be it could be a very difficult thing to digest, especially when we're talking about all these like more horrific things, right?
Yes.
So are we still talking about humans at this point then? I know souls and all of that, but like like I'm curious about all the grays and the government and all of that too.
So, oh wow, the grays, that's a hard one. Um,
Mhm.
so humans, I mean, are we even human, right? Are we actually human?
No,
Does
we're
it?
right. Like this is a human body.
Yes, this is a
We're
vehicle.
human, yeah. Okay.
We're in a vehicle right now, and that would be the human vehicle. For the other things that are here, I would say no, there's different things. So it's not just about aliens, it's also about other technology.
Energies, maybe.
Maybe even clones, maybe what Elon Musk talks about in terms of things, maybe these
But
things.
Elon is definitely not of this. He's something
No,
else. Yeah.
no, yes. I mean,
Yes.
yes. Um, there's a much longer story, and it comes from the beginning of creation. And so if we want to look into it, we can actually figure out what's happened here. But on a more like basic level of right now, no, not everything is the same. And certain things have different contracts and different ways in which they are moving about the world. Sorry to be so, because I just know right now I'm not supposed to get into all that, because
Oh, yeah,
it's a very odd kind of a thing, and I don't want to overwhelm anyone like I did before. Um,
I get that.
but on a basic level, okay, so we could talk about the grays though. So what if, hypothetically,
What if? What if?
what if,
Right.
because all past, present, and future exists right now, what if the grays were an amalgamation of humanity in a future form? What if something went astray,
Okay.
and that what went astray created the grays?
Okay.
And so what if they were visiting us from past, present, and future tense, but that was just another iteration of us that had chosen to separate from the body in certain ways, and as a direct result became a more disconnected, more focused on technology as opposed to feelings. Human beings are so fascinating because we have the ability to create from an electromagnetic place using the heart.
Mhm.
Other entities and iterations don't. And so that is an amalgamation of human beings losing their connection with their heart.
So are
Moving.
they possibly going to be shown to us again in the same concept of like, if they are the past, present, future, right? An iteration of a group of people,
Mm-hmm.
are they being shown to us? And it's just kind of like, well, if you don't, go towards ascending and
Yes.
healing karma, this is what is going to happen.
Yes. That's
Okay.
exactly it.
Okay.
That's exactly it. And so that's the disconnection state. And that's why it becomes more when you follow materialism, and obviously they're a later version of us, but you follow that pathway, that's what ends up happening. And that's why they're cold and they're not connected in these ways. And so we do have a choice. Now, the beautiful part about this entire thing is that no matter which way anyone goes, there is an end date to all of it eventually, where you can go the long way home or you can go the short way home, but eventually you get home.
How do we get the short way home?
Well, we follow the laws of karma now. And so that's why it's funny, but throughout history, all these guys would come and they would all try to say, hey, just do these simple things. Love your neighbor. Don't have sex with random people. The reason for that also, though, I want to talk about the meat and the fish one more time, because from a higher perspective, I'm saying a lot of stuff, but I want to talk about the 3D reasons for it, because it's funny. But when this shift happened to me, I kept trying to tell everyone, I'm just at the cutting edge of science. I'm not a weirdo. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? You dropped out of the 4th grade. And I was like, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's all logic.
Yeah.
And it is. So logically, if we're going through karma, okay, in the Bible, it always talks about demons, right? And I do believe there's elemental things around here. There's consciousness at all levels. So you could hear it from the top, you could hear it from the bottom. Eventually, we're just kind of getting bullied into healing. So however you want to look at that. But parasites, okay? Parasites, they say 80% of people have parasites, which I believe is why we shouldn't be having sex with random people. I think it's a sexually transmitted thing as much as it is in anything. But on top of that, parasites can take over the entire nervous system. It can take over your mental health. They can release serotonin for you. If you're making bad decisions, they can reroute your entire nervous system to believe that that makes sense. As I've started to help people change their eating habits, total mental illness has like started where they want to die the first few days. They're like, why do I want to die all of a sudden? I'm like, because those parasites are trying to hold on, so that they can control you and they can't live in a higher state. So that is a huge reason for all of these rules, in my opinion, would be parasites. So
is that the same as Morgellons? Morgellons? Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's people, the Morgellons is like, people believe that they're like nano affected as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So that's exactly it. And that's why, and cancer, I believe, is also, they've been doing studies where if people take like and I'm not a doctor and don't whatever, but people take certain animal products to get rid of parasites and have a reverse in illness.
Oh.
So I do believe most of what's going on is parasitic. And even COVID, that's why ivermectin is an anti-parasitic. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I never made that connection.
Mm-hmm. But
I was just kind of like, why are they giving like horse parasite medicine to people,
Yep.
Got it.
And I think a lot of this would be parasitic. And then even there's one of these religious books. Again, I actually am really, I don't know. So I just read and I'm like, wow, it makes a lot of sense scientifically. But one of the books talks about how you should fast for 7 days if you get sick. Oh, no, first of all, they had me fast. And I always go into like intensity with myself, by the way. I'm not an overachiever, but catch me getting some rules that I'm trying to put together, because it's not all just coming down to me like, oh, just fast. It's not like that.
I imagine these messages and downloads come to you. I'm like, oh, she just sits there and then,
Well, I do have that, but it's funny because I always say it's like, I've also been trained for this in a weird way. Like I grew up loving Nancy Drew. So like the way my brain works would be the person who could figure out the puzzle. It is kind of like a puzzle though. And so what did they do? I don't know. This was recently. They were like, you need to fast for 7 days or something. And I was like,
Just fast, straight up, like nothing but water.
yes, a water fast. And I was like, did I do something wrong? Because that's immediately where I go. I'm like, what did I do, bro? Like, and also, how am I gonna do that? Like, that's like I did that in January, but I was coming out of a breakup that was so painful. Like, I was in a different place mentally. I would have not moved from the floor anyway, you know?
Right.
I was like, all right, well. And so I'm sitting there and I'm going through this. This is where the parasite download came. And so I'm sitting there the first day and I'm feeling a lot of things. Second day, I'm feeling a lot of things. Third day. Now, by the third day, I can feel something inside of me. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm like, something is like happening. And I'm like, this feels like not a demon, because again, I don't use those words, but it just feels like something outside of me is inside of me. I don't know how to explain that. So I go into the bathtub and I'm talking, and at first I'm like giving like very like intense like strangeness. So I'm like, get out of me, whatever. It was just nuts. So I'm doing that whole thing. And then I'm realizing, no, I need to start like praying, because whatever is inside of me that's causing this feeling, it's something that's just unhealed. And so I start just speaking love into myself, because I am, 80% water. Also, when they did that water test, the Japanese scientists, you speak love into yourself. So I start asking myself, what is this pain you're experiencing? What is this feeling? And the feeling is just that it's the same thing I was crying about today. It's like I never took a second for myself to really say how challenging and painful and lonely and hard this was for me. So I start crying, and I literally can feel this thing just like leave my body. And so that's the demon, the negative, whatever it is. And after that, I'm crying, and all of a sudden they're like, you don't have to fast for 7 days. We just wanted you to understand it's parasitic in nature. So any part of yourself that struggles to love yourself is what these quote unquote like biblical demons would be. And you need to fast that out so that it can all leave. And sometimes it takes 7 days to get a parasite out if you're fasting. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4. Does that make sense? So they were giving me the amount of time just so I could deduce what it was. Then I go Google and I find out that's what they used to say. There was some religious book and it talks about holding milk out and a parasite demon comes out of a person. But these books are weird because it can sound really creepy and super biblical and intense, when really it's like a way to show you what the bigger picture is in a time like this. So the books could survive for now, so we could look through them to understand the principle.
That's a really interesting sort of like way or view to like see these books, right? Because I think like with religions and stuff like that, it's kind of about, maybe like following these books and believing all these things, but it's not applicable to our present as we think it, or as we know, right?
As we've defined it.
Right, believed to know, I guess, or like trained or whatever, like brainwashed to know. But like, it's an interesting sort of perspective that I haven't heard before.
Well, and I don't know if anyone else, that's why I'd love to talk to some people who are religious at some point, because I was like, bro, what do y'all think this says?
That would actually be a really I would love to hear that.
Well, because I'm having an experience of like a beautiful mind. And so when I'm reading them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. But if I were to translate to you what I'm reading, it would look very different than what it's saying. And actually, I might start doing like a Bible study, just a religious study, because of all the different books I've read. I'm like, don't you see? That's what that is. Right. And then you got to do that. Everyone's like, what side? I'm like, I don't.
Wait, so are you religious now, or do you just study these books sort of as like a historical reference of past, present, and future?
I think if you were to like be in my life, you might think I'm religious, because I am doing certain things very much so. So, for example, Jewish people, they do some people do the lunar calendar. I absolutely live by the lunar calendar, but it's also a Hindu, yes. And we are water. So why wouldn't we be on a lunar calendar? Also, the Hindus follow a lunar calendar. So yes, I am on their calendar as well. And then I practice Sabbath, which is both Jewish and Seventh-day Adventist. And then Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarian. So yes, I guess I'm Christian in that way. Then Islam, I absolutely love them. I read the Quran last. And I found it very, very fascinating on so many different levels. And they hold true to no alcohol because it's spirits, which is very important. And the Prophet Muhammad was incredible and very disciplined and dedicated. And so I practiced Ashura, which was actually my birthday. So yes, I'm very religious.
No, I get that. Like there's like certain practices and stuff that you adhere to that are associated with different religions, but it's really more about just like living your life in a way that aligns to who you truly are.
Yes.
Right. So I understand that.
Yes. And I think because all of them, it's funny because I don't think that anyone would have the experience I had with these books, but I think it would take for the ascension that I was told, that was the first thing I was told I was here for. I think it would take someone with a neurodivergent brain to be able to figure out how to actually ascend the Kundalini with all of the different clues. Like I said, the lunar calendar, there's a day when your sun is in your moon sign for 2.5 days. During those days, you need to really practice certain things in order to move the energy up your body. If you were very religious or stuck in any ideology, you wouldn't be able to put all of them together.
Right. I mean, I think there's got to be truth to, some of the stuff that's been written. It's like history books, right? But I think it feels to me like I know nothing about religion. Like I grew up with like Buddhist traditions because my Chinese family, like they're Buddhist, right? But I never really like got into the actual like religion or ideology of it. But I can see like it seems like everyone's pretty much saying the same thing.
Yes.
Terms and language, and maybe there's like different iterations of like how certain things got to certain places or were created and stuff like that. But it's you can look at it sort of as a way to live your life in a way where it can guide you to be aligned with like your highest like soul self or what you were meant to be on this planet, right?
100%. And Buddhism is the laws of karma, right?
Yeah, it is. So you're also practicing
I was gonna say I forgot about the Buddhist, sorry, but I'm in the Buddhist as well. Well, and actually in Buddhism, and Hare Krishna, I can't forget. It's so funny. So Hare Krishna, if you practice that, we're in the age of Kali Yuga, back to the Hindus, but if you sing and chant, you can get yourself out of the mental obsession that's kind of riotous around here energetically. And then the Buddhists, the way that they practice meditation in terms of going cross-eyed is very important to recalibrating the hemispheres of your brain.
How does that work?
Well, it's been so interesting. So in terms of, with the Illuminati or whatever, how they always do this symbol?
Mm-hmm.
What that means is mixing the hemispheres of your brain. So because this reality we're living in is distorted, it's constantly pulling our left and right hemispheres out of alignment. If we look cross-eyed, we start to sync our hemispheres of our brain. So we get a synced brain.
Interesting. Is that the whole like third eye thing too? Because it's like right in the middle and it's just kind of like at that intersection of.
Yep, that's exactly it. And then it's even more fascinating because again, what they've been teaching their people, God's also,
the Illuminati?
Yeah.
Okay.
God's been teaching me those tricks too. And so as above, so below. Well, that comes down to music. So if you play certain music in certain ways, you can actually sync the hemispheres of the brain. So I've been doing a lot of healing work with people through sound, but there's so many different clues. Like I said, it's more of an escape room than anything, at least for me. So people might think I'm religious, but I'm like, no, bro, there's so many clues in here of this video game.
Are these like sounds, the binaural beats and stuff like that work really well for like neurodivergent people like myself.
Yes, and that's exactly it. So if you can start mixing these tones, you can actually create that hemi-synced brain and start to operate properly. So for all of them, that's what they do. That's why they worship this. They're worshiping a hemi-synced brain. For us, we're just out of brain coherence, and so that's why.
So now how do we do that?
Well, we do it by chanting. So weirdly, one of the things they gave me was the Hare Krishna. If you do that, you're syncing and you're singing to the Kundalini. So you know that old they show like a snake and a snake charmer.
Yeah.
And you sing to it.
They're like playing the little like thing.
Yes, it's the same thing for us. And so we have to sing and tone our body in order to raise that. But that's what's funny too across religions, right? So I believe it's the Hindus with Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam. That's for all the chakras.
Oh yeah, all the different chakras, right?
Yeah. So for the Christians, it's the Lamb of Christ. Lam is the base of your tailbone.
That's where that oil is coming from, right? That oil,
yep.
Christ oil that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, wow, all y'all should have just
everyone's just saying the same thing. They just lived in different places at the time, maybe.
That's exactly it. And actually, God is at the forefront of all of it. And you can even call that universal energy source, whatever people want. Like, I just use God because I'm more comfortable with myself now. And when I was a kid, I was talking to my mom recently about my codependency and control. And I was saying, it was so hard for me to let people not choose what I thought they should be choosing. Like, God bless anyone who I've like been mad at or yelled at. I'm so sorry if I was trying to control your ascension, but I didn't want people to go the hard way. And I didn't understand we actually chose to go the long way. So I have to let it go.
We did this. We are the problem.
Yeah, we're the problem. We're doing this to ourselves. It's very weird. I'm like the writers of this show. Remember how I kept saying Trolls World Tour? I don't know if you remember, but
I did remember. And then you have these little like guys.
Yes, the trolls.
Do they have crystal?
Yeah, they're crystal heads, yeah.
Crystal little troll things, yeah. What was that about?
Because I kept receiving that it would be a Trolls World Tour, and now I'm like, oh, this is a Trolls World Tour. And then the movie came out, and I was like, here we go.
You're like, yep, there's another coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
My mom was saying, though, when I was a kid, the thing was I've always been psychic. And so, I was 2 years old and I turned to her and I said, God doesn't think you're a sensible woman. And so, yeah, we didn't talk about God. We didn't have religion. I didn't grow up with anything. But I think, so I've always, that's why I use the word God. It doesn't matter though, because at the end of the day, we're all just connected through love. And that's really it. But she was saying too, that's why I've had a hard time, is because I've tried to help people and people are not supposed to listen. And I would try and tell people, don't do this. It's going to hurt you. The point was they were supposed to get hurt, but through my childhood, I had to suffer with them. So I tried to, control it.
Try to protect people.
Yes. Really? And yeah, I know. Protect them from a video game.
Yeah. But it's, I think that's one of the harder things to like learn as you get older. That was definitely like a hard, really tough lesson for me to learn, which is like you have to understand that everyone has their own journey, and we all just came here to do what we decided we wanted to do here, right? And obviously when we love people, we want to see, maybe we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we have in our lives, and we just want them to help them get here faster, right? Because we've been through that. It was hard. But at the end of the day, like the hardest part is, I think, realizing that like you can be there to support someone, but whatever they're going to choose to do, they were meant to do on this journey of theirs, and you can't do anything about it. And the best thing you can do about it is just to love them through it.
100%. How is that with, okay, so can we talk about Buddhism? Because actually, I'm so sorry. I would say I have a Buddha shrine over here, by the way, but
I don't know anything about like religion.
Well, non-attachment though, that's what I love about the Buddhists, because that's actually the hardest thing I've ever had to do is non-attachment, especially with these gifts. I'm like,
that's like the whole human experience. Our thing is attached.
Yes.
Like we are in the 3D world attached to like
Everything.
this, all of it. And I think that is why the non-attachment for Buddhists is probably like the thing that like you're supposed to just not attach to anything and then you'll get it, right?
But do you feel like, so, okay, you're not religious, but your family was.
Yeah.
And what was that like growing up, especially being codependent? Because, like I said, being psychic and being codependent has been insane for me. Like, it is nuts, actually, for everyone in my life. I feel bad for everyone because it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think with like non-attachment, like with my family at least, I grew up in the sense where like I grew up or something that my mom like has sort of like ingrained, or one of the like the lessons that I take from her is that you come into this world alone and you're gonna leave alone. And that
Wow.
for me as like a child was really difficult to understand, right? Because you're coming into this world like, I don't know anything, like I need to attach to somebody or I'm gonna die, right?
Wow.
So like I think like, you know, in a way, when I was a child, it was difficult for me to really understand that. It felt really like scary and lonely. And it was just kind of like, then what's the point of like, you know, be like connecting to people or like doing anything really if you're
Wow.
just gonna come into this world alone and you're going to die alone. But I think like looking at it now as like an adult, it makes a lot of sense. It's not so much like something that she taught me to like instill fear in me and like fuck the world, right? It was just it's the reality of our existence in this human life,
Hmm.
right? And I think the maybe the part of it that would have been dope was like, yo, you're like this is just one experience. Like you come into this human experience alone and you're gonna leave this human experience alone, but you got all your homies up there and that's the real home, right?
Yes.
And so I think like, you know, understanding that later on in life definitely sort of helped with like the fear
Oh, it
of
just
like
makes
what
me,
message like
yeah.
comes up.
Ugh. It just makes me emotional because I just wish, because I think as a child, when you're getting that messaging, that's really challenging because the
Mhm.
weird part is not, it's like, okay, none of this means anything and it doesn't
Yeah,
matter, but then how do we make it matter and it means everything? It's like weird,
right.
like nihilism versus like, but as a child, that's got to be so hard to be
Mhm.
receiving that messaging, not knowing, because that's the one thing is as much rejection as I faced here, I'm just like, first of all, y'all need me. No,
Yeah,
no
like you
ego.
don't know this, but like I'm here for you.
Yes, but I'm gonna figure this out for us because I was told something and I'm a team player, so
Right.
whatever. But then the second half is I've received so much love from all of us somewhere else.
Yeah.
So when I'm here, I'm like, ah, whatever, y'all, fine. And
You got
like,
your homies. You got your homies. Like in the real world or whatever you want to call it, like your homies are your homies for forever. Like there's
yes,
no, I mean, you might not run into them in this lifetime or whatever, but all the people that I believe I call soulmates,
yes,
like the homies that have been there in all the lifetimes, right? And they're all
yes.
wherever they are. And yeah, that's like the true sort of like place of love, right?
When did you discover that though? Because coming from like, oh, it doesn't, because especially with, I don't want to, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I would say if that's kind of what my mom teaches me, then I don't feel super loved and connected in certain ways, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it's got to be probably maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. And I think, you know, I was coming out of a really abusive and toxic relationship. And that was sort of that event, that mirror that we were talking about. Like, I don't believe that anyone chooses like trauma or deserves any of that sort of treatment, you know, but it was that thing that was this mirror. And it was
Mm,
just like, what is that all about? Like, why did I find myself in this position? Right. And
yep.
it's here and it's a not a pretty thing to go through, but at the same time, it's like it had to happen that way for me to actually wake up and be like, yo, like, what's going on here with myself? How
Yes.
did I find myself in this awful position? And I think like to what you were saying before, it's you kind of have to like maybe the first step is that sort of like life or death sort of situation, right? And you're like, oh
Hmm.
shit, like I really gotta, it's something that's going on. I gotta look at it. And I think in that moment, that was sort of like the catalyst of like, okay, I can't, you know, I gotta look at all this like childhood stuff going on. Like I can't just like run away. I can't put myself in this situation ever again because it's not great. It's very dangerous, right? And so I think when I started actually looking at within myself and healing all those things, that was when I started realizing like, yo, like that answer has to start inside. That love that we're all looking for,
Mm.
that love that doesn't come from, abusive, toxic relationships or experiences, that we allow ourselves to be in those positions, to look for that love, that doesn't come from anyone else but us. And if that's not within us, like you're never gonna feel it coming from anywhere else.
Mm.
It's got to be within ourselves first.
How
And
did
so,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah,
How because it's easy for, and I think for me sometimes, because I've been a mental health professional while still being this guy for like 20 years. Like I said, I've almost bypassed so many things, like because it's been so traumatic. I just keep jumping until like the past September, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you, Sai. How did you do this? And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. But how did you, because coming from not enough love, never learning it, and then having this messaging of like, you come here alone, you leave alone, and nothing means anything. How did you, when getting out of a toxic relationship, I think we have two choices. We could either say, wow, I'm such a piece of shit, I deserved
yeah,
that, and this was just, whatever. Or we can start to form that love, but you're almost coming from more of a deficit than you've
right.
ever known. How did you start to build that relationship with yourself?
I think a lot of it, the first like stage of that was shame. There was
Mm.
so much shame. It was like, how did you do this? Like, you don't, it's hard to forgive yourself. And I think like self-forgiveness is still one of the things that I'm learning how to heal.
Mm.
But I think, the first stage is always shame. And then it's always like, well, the shame doesn't actually make you feel better at all. It makes you feel even worse about something that's already happened in the past that you can't change, right? You're already here. So how do we move forward? And I think like, the shaming, I went through the cycles of it and then I realized like this isn't actually helping. So why don't we get curious?
Yeah.
And then I think the curiosity part really, I think that's like, I've always been someone that was naturally curious. And so I think with the curiosity, it's just kind of like, let's look at this. Like, why am I codependent, for example, right? Like what came, is that actually like, are the things that I'm telling myself, like, I'm not worthy enough for love. Like no one can ever love me. And I need to overgive and save everyone so I'm worthy of their love. And maybe then they'll give me love, all of those things, right? That's how I was conditioned growing up. It was kind of like, really, if this is a mirror, is this actually true?
Mm.
And it's sort of that curiosity that led me to be able to sort of question my realities and question the truth. And then what ended up happening was like, you know what? Like, I don't think that's true, right?
Mm.
Like, are these things that I truly believe? Like, if I ask my best friend this, is that what they would tell me? It's like, no,
Right.
right? And then it's just kind of like, holy, like it's obviously like, again, it's not going to come from the outside, but when you're in a place, when you get to a place where you don't trust yourself anymore, you have to start with your support, right? And I think
Mhm.
I was very, very lucky to have that support in therapy and all of that. So, helping myself sort of question these like really, really true realities for myself that I believed my whole life really, really sort of opened it up for me. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that's true. I don't think this is true. And it's
Mm.
sort of, it feels like what's going on right now in the world in a larger picture, right? And you were saying that it comes back to sort of, no one's here to save ourselves. Like we are the only ones here to save ourselves. And it's literally that same concept, right? You realize you're
Mhm.
like, I got to look at myself. Like, yeah, you can blame all the other people for doing all these horrible things. They've gone through their own stuff. It doesn't make it okay to have them cause trauma to other people. But at the same time, it's like, what? Maybe I'm also being a part of it. Maybe I'm
Mm.
part of the cycle. Maybe I'm perpetuating, because there's always got to be, the one interesting thing I learned about codependency, for example, is that I used to think codependency were the needy people and they were the ones codependent on someone else.
Mhm.
But what I learned from my therapist when we first were talking about it, she was like, the other side of it, the other person is also codependent. Like
Yes.
the other side. And I was like, no, the codependent person is one person in the relationship. She's like,
Mm-mm.
there's two parts and everyone plays a part in this cycle. Without the other person being the enabler, there is no codependency.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm part of the problem. And here we are today sitting here talking about there's these mirrors, there's these like cycles of just like healing, and it all comes down to ourselves, right?
You know, can I say one thing? You want to know what the most annoying thing about codependency was for me?
Tell me.
Oh my gosh. I was such a good person.
Yeah. I was this was not selfish at all. This does not fulfill my needs.
Not at all. I'm such a good person.
I am such a, how could they?
How could all of them?
Right, like exactly. How could every single person? I am the only like
Oprah. I'm Oprah always, and I'm the best person in the entire world, and I've never been ever wrong because I always love and give.
So generous. Yes. And I showed up for everyone, and how come they're not showing up for me? Well, you know, that sort of like validation that we're seeking, that our brains are, I believe our brains are wired to be able to, okay, come here, sorry. I believe that our brains are here to like sort of validate the truths that we already believe, right? Yep. So we're only going to be looking for stuff that supports that, because that makes us safe in our human experience. Yes. That's why brain and ego, all of that is here, because we need to be safe from this whole physical, very physical, like reality that we're experiencing.
A story, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that because of that, right? Like this story that we've held on to, we only look, it's kind of like when you're about to buy a red car, right? And all of a sudden, all you see outside are red cars. And you're like, where did all these like red cars come from, right? You pick out things, your brain is trained to pick out things to make you feel safe and to reassure you that your truths are real.
Yep.
And so I feel like with codependency, that's what it was, right? It's basically being like, well, I'm not worthy of love. So I'm going to go choose partners and friendships and relationships that prove to me that no matter how much I work to become worthy of love, it's never going to happen.
Yep. It'll never work.
But I'm such a good person though. But I'm such a good person. I'm not getting anything from this. But no, we're getting we're getting the proof.
The validation.
Believe is true. Because the thing about challenging your reality, that's scary. That's all we know in this world, is that truth of how we are in the physical world, because we have to exist in this physical society.
Yes.
Right? So that truth you were talking about, that we forgot who we are, that is the real truth. And that's scary when it doesn't align with the physical world or society or whatever it is that we have to interact with in this human body and experience.
Well, and it's also scary because it's kind of the same thing as what I'm talking about now. I really wanted someone to come save us.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I've been waiting to get saved my whole life.
We're just codependent. This is all just codependency. That's all it is.
Yes, it's literally.
We just discovered it. We solved it.
This is it. Yeah, now we know that. Well, I do think we need to get a little more codependent as a society, but like in a different way, you know, like a little more community based. Right. We could all be a bit more like co-dependent.
Yeah. It's not codependency, it's like interdependency.
Oh yeah, that's what my therapist always says.
Yeah, interdependency is the word that I
interdependent.
But doesn't everyone want to like show up for everyone the same way I show up for them? Like,
no.
Make the world a better place. And she was like, well, there's also interdependency. And I was like,
well, and when you heal, I don't know, but like for me, it's so funny because I actually realized I love me so much. I really think I'm such a good person. I would totally like date me, marry me, and be my friend. You know, like that's like the work I feel like I've done. At the same time, though, I'm also an asshole. And I'm not as good of a guy as I thought I was. What I mean by that is like, without the validation of me feeding some unhealed childhood wound, I actually can let you go and do whatever you want at all times. I can walk away. Like, and I don't mean I'm an actual asshole. I just mean like the parts of myself that I had overly identified with by saving the whole world. When I finally healed my childhood, I was like, you don't actually give a shit this much, bud. I love you so much.
Well, that's the thing, right? You just kind of have to like, you know what? You're telling me that you're gonna do this thing that's bad for you.
Yes.
I love you and I don't want you to see you hurt or suffer or whatever. I can tell you but you just got to go through it. I've been there.
Yeah.
I got to go through my own stuff. Like
Yes.
you tell me that this fire is going to burn if I like stick my finger in it. Well, I just got to know. I just got to know. I just got to know. I'm just going to stick my finger in it. I just got to learn.
Yeah, and I
Right.
want you to. I'm like, you should go light the thing on fire and
Yeah.
jump in it. Like, I love you so much. I think that'd be great for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
psychically, it's a little hard though, because people will try to rope me into some things. And I'm like, look, you should do whatever feels right. I am not here for anything other than just making doll houses and telling a few truths, you know.
And farming potatoes and crocheting and knitting.
Farming. Yes. Well, I started making my own bread yeast. I'm like, what happened to her?
Yo, so yeah, so what's the deal with gluten then? You know, we're talking about food and all of that. Gluten. I was surprised when you said bread.
Oh yeah. So no, okay, so there's this thing called einkorn, and actually I think you could buy it from the Amish, but it's the original
Where do I find
form.
the Amish? Like where
Bro,
like just on the street,
they
just by the
have
wagon?
no, it's on Amazon. They're selling like bags of it where you could grow your own, but I'm not doing that. I just got the flour and I'm just gonna make my own. I'm making my own yeast with it, but it's the original form of it before it was genetically modified.
Mhm.
Einkorn, einkorn. So if you're gluten intolerant, you could eat this, I believe, and you'd be great.
Okay. Are we okay with gluten though, or do we think that's not a great thing?
I think none of this is really good for us, to be completely honest. And I think so, but because there's so much weird stuff going on, I pick my battles. So, I mean, I really pretty much only make food every day. Like, I don't even go out to eat anymore. So, I make all sorts of vegetables all day long. And I don't really eat anything processed. But if I were to be out, I would get a piece of toast and just call it. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, but with the bioengineered and all this kind of stuff, it's just nuts.
I
But
could like go in my cupboard and just like go through a cleanse because like it's actually printed on the thing that says
yes,
bioengineered.
yes, it's
What does that
insane.
even mean?
I don't know. And I tried to look it up, and then I was just like, I don't even like, you can't figure it. But also with what on a 3D level, to think about what these people are doing with the Epstein Island of it all,
Oh, yo.
I
Yeah.
just don't trust them. And I don't want to eat their bioengineering because everything could be they've been okay to make genetically modified foods. They've also been like, you know, and I'm sure some Snopes person will take me off, but they've been using cells in order to study these things. So I just don't know what we're eating, and I don't want to participate anymore.
So how do we know like the potatoes we're growing are like cool? Like how do we
Oh,
know
they're not.
they're good? You know, like
They're not. That's why,
they're
I mean,
not.
and people right now are like, well, so you just eat only organic? I'm like, no, who's got the budget for this? I tried
Yeah.
to, but we're not balling like that. But what I have done, so for the potatoes I'm growing in the back, like my neighbors must
You have to whisper it.
love me. Well, I just don't know how they feel. They'll feel good about it later though.
Yeah.
But I bought non-GMO from like Amazon, some grower. I had to pay shipping. It was crazy, but I bought those little 5-pound grow bags and some dirt. And so I just took all the potatoes, put them in a dirt sack, and I'm going to grow it like that. So you don't need to be balling to actually start it. You can go get some seeds, non-GMO seeds, and do it for cheap. It's just a matter of what grows quickly, right? Just what I mean by that is if you can't have room for a garden, you don't want to be growing one piece of garlic for 2 years to get a bulb.
Right.
You know, it's like
Right.
nuts. But for me, potatoes, things like that make a lot of sense. Even cactuses are good sources of food, and you can get one non-GMO thing and then just keep replicating it. So I save all my seeds. I'm growing avocados. Obviously they'll take a long time, but I'm just like, if we can grow it, I'll do it.
Are you just like secretly like putting little like baskets in your parking lot?
Yes.
You know? Like what's going on? What's going on with this?
I've got little baskets like hidden behind the car. There's like those little just grow bags. I'm like, I don't know. But I think it's important to be, when we think about, they're coming for me. Do you hear them? You can't hear it. Oh,
No.
the fucking, they're, so sometimes,
Friends?
well, the helicopters, but sometimes I'm like, we don't know who these people are, but they'll just
Yeah.
come and park here.
I kind of like worry about that with you though.
I
Not
used
with you, not so much like I just, there's gonna be people that aren't happy with the stuff coming out,
I know. I was really scared about it before, which is why I didn't talk out loud, because I was like, this is definitely I'm not gonna make it. Now I feel so okay with it all because I just know that I like I said, if my belief at this point is that this is about ending the game of karma, then as long as I'm not engaged in karma, no harm can befall me. And I believe that for all of us.
Okay.
Deeply. Because I believe on some level that these people believe that they're enacting God's will.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of crazy, but that's what I absolutely believe. And I also believe that, and I won't go in depth about it, but I've engaged with some of these people that have done these things. Not on like a grand, I'm not sitting there with George Soros, at the table having dinner.
Yeah.
But there's people in every facet of entertainment that have to be complicit in this in some way, shape, or form. And I know they are. And I didn't know exactly when I was younger what was going on. I just knew I had a really weird feeling, a bad feeling.
Yep.
I knew I signed to people. I knew that after me saying I would never like do certain things, I never heard from them again. There was just weird things that were going on.
Yeah.
I know they did my birth chart.
What do you
and
mean?
They kept it.
What
I
is
mean,
that?
they did my birth chart and they kept it and they never gave it to me and they signed me to a ridiculous deal. And they signed my book rights, which I was like, how would you even know I was going to do a book?
Wait. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about. I haven't heard about your book, but I came across like the little like snippet that you sent me, and I was like, "Yo, you got to put this out."
Oh, I
What's
never.
going on with that?
Well, I ended up actually, this is so wild, but so I did write a book about my own life. Then I was like, this is way too depressing and heavy. Then I started with the Ascension rules, but I was like, I don't even know what's going on yet. You
Oh
need
yeah,
to,
that I think I was gonna ask you about the Ascension rules. I think
y-
you sent me
yes,
snips of it. Yeah.
I started it, but I think I needed to be quiet and really figure out what was happening because I was like, you're freaking people out. You're freaking yourself
Early,
out.
early right now.
Yeah, I was like, you need to
Early.
just chill out and figure out what's happening to you first, and then you could go do whatever. In this time, I actually did a book about shame, though, a workbook about shame, which I think is actually even more important. Because, like I said, we're here to heal now. So that's why I think with all the things I started, it just didn't sit right with me because it's not about pain anymore. It's kind of like, yo, it's time to heal. What are we doing to heal?
Right.
So I have that book and I need to put it out. But in the interim of that, I wrote a 3-series children's book, and it was based upon my life. And the main character is named Penelope, and I love her so much. And I ended up finding out later that she's actually a real girl that had passed away. But I didn't know that at the time. And so she teaches the world about transmutation and how to heal, and also through the times of
Skills right now.
Cloning and a group of people trying to do certain things. Penelope Price is a real hero. And so that's what I'm very excited about. I deeply believe in her. And it's funny because I knew it was a book about my own life and childhood and all the magic that I've experienced. And I had this girl that I partially like raised. She's like a daughter to me, and I have a grandbaby, and I love her mom dearly, and I hadn't seen her mom in years, and they both came to visit me this past December. And I said, I don't know why, but I have to tell you guys this insane story that happened in New York around this children's book I'm writing. And the mom started sobbing, and she said, do you remember why, you were dealing like why all this stuff happened to me and my daughter, everything? I said, no, honestly, I don't remember. Like, I don't remember anything. And she said, this all happened because I was facing murder charges for,
Was?
yeah, she said I was like, the reason you came in and like all this stuff happened and you you know, I don't want to mention names, but she said the reason for all that was because I was facing murder charges for murdering my daughter Penelope. And I said, oh my gosh, I did not remember that that's why.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so then I said, wait, when is her birthday? And the mom cried even harder because I had this weird feeling. And she said, holy shit, I'm actually going to speak at a women's convention on her birthday. And the theme of the convention was a little girl grows up. And it was Penelope's 18th birthday this past May.
Yo, I literally just like chills and goosebumps everywhere. Shit. Whoa.
It's just so beautiful.
Wow. Oh boy.
So I'm very excited about that.
When is that coming out?
I'm not sure because I'm kind of waiting on God. I either have a loan to do it myself or I'm having some big meetings with some people. I don't really know. Like, it's kind of just like however this is supposed to go. Obviously, it has to be my integrity-based story without anyone changing it from up top.
Oh,
so
100%.
However that comes into alignment.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be honest with you, Tiff, like I just feel so grateful. Like in every way, shape, and form. Like, this has been the most humbling, bizarre, crazy, beautiful, painful time of life in every way. And I've never been more like grateful to just be a part of everything. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but that's so beautiful to hear though, because I know that you've gone through a lot in your life, a lot of different types of experiences that I think, most people won't and, won't understand either. But to like just hear it and like see how you've been able to just handle and survive in the beginning, right? Survive every single, it's just kind of like you just got to keep going. You don't have a choice. But like for you to like be able to come back to this point in your life, like, again, I believe that it brought you to this very specific moment. And for you to be able to just like still be so genuinely just like grateful to be here and still
so
loving, like, no, honestly, like life's not easy, right? And a lot of times it's like we did this to ourselves, we chose this, whatever. But it still can be a very difficult experience. And for me to like watch, you just be so grateful and so full of love and just like want to spread that love regardless of, how people might respond or you might have experiences in this world, like severing relationships and stuff, like that is such a brave and beautiful thing. And I just, it's amazing. And I'm like so grateful that like I get to witness all of it. I truly am.
I'm actually crying now because I just love you so much. And I think, like I said, I think processing how hard it's been the past few weeks, just taking a second for myself, but also then the past 3 days, just thinking about how many beautiful people I have, you being one of them, like how this has actually just been such a beautiful adventure with my friends that I feel like, when you were talking about soulmates up there, I was like, whew, girl, you're a soulmate right there.
Yeah.
Because how do you find someone at a random recording studio? And think about that. Like, we met in like a most random of ways, not even
think
like
at Pulse.
Yes.
Was it Pulse?
Yeah, we met at Pulse. I wrote
in the hallway.
That's what I was gonna say. We met in a freaking hallway and we've never separated. We've seen each other maybe twice in real life. And then we've cried, been on like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
what is that?
That's up there. That's whatever. That's in a whole different. That's a whole energy thing. That's a different level of energy.
Yes, and it's like so beautiful. It's like crazy and beautiful.
It is, but it's so interesting, right? Because like if you think about it, again, back to your message about, I believe that, I think it was Baba Ram Dass that said this, right? Like we're all just here to walk each other home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so it's kind of funny to think that we were home with all of the real homies, right? We were home, but then we're like, nah, let's just go in and play this video game because it looks fun. right? And then we forget about like real life,
Oh,
right?
and then we get here, we're like, this is brutal.
Right. And then we're just playing this game to go get back to home.
Back to home where we already are,
We already
literally.
right. And it's just kind of like, what are we doing up there? We like everything's so great up there that we're just like bored. And we're like,
Yes.
shit.
Yes, that's why it's even weirder, because I was like, the funny part is we actually wanted to
Yeah,
do
we told
this.
like as a fun activity, like you know what? It's on a Saturday. I mean, there's no time, I don't think, but like it's this moment, and I just feel bored, so let's just do this.
We chose it like a cruise excursion.
Yeah,
And
like
then
let's just go to Canada.
literally we were like, well, I guess I'll do the snorkeling. Yeah. It's like, what?
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be cool.
Yeah.
And then we get here, we're like, help, I'm drowning.
I'm like on fire. I'm supposed to save all of humanity.
Yes.
Like I did not sign up for this.
And I'm like, wait, I did though. I definitely know I did, because all the clues I left myself are giving you signed up for this.
Right, there's like some contract. Like that's my signature right there on that contract. So
Literally.
we chose this, but I'm also like so glad that I get to do life and have these experiences with the real homies, the soul homies, someone like you.
Me too.
It does remind you of home, right? Like it does sort of just like it's just another piece that you left yourself almost. And it's just like, yo, like, oh, you run into this person randomly, like I know where you're from, like, oh, that's home. And it's another reminder. And it's a rare thing. Like for me, I only have a few people in my life that I can truly say that you get that feeling right when you like meet them. You're like, I know you. Like
In a hallway and pulse,
yeah,
yes.
according to you, I know you, right? And it's another clue that, we leave ourselves so that we can get home.
And I'm so grateful, I just need to say, and then I get how I don't even know. The reason I was just like really crying is because I've had such a hard time coming back onto the internet, and that's okay. I think I'm actually done with that story. Like I think I was done with that story this weekend, and then you hit me, but I just need to thank you, because we weren't actually supposed to do this together today.
But we were though.
But
That's the cool part, that we were.
But we were, and I needed you, like, because I had just done a video and I did upload it, but I was like, this is so frustrating because it's not me and I want to be myself. But when you're talking to yourself, it's just bizarre. It's like, okay, bro, like, all right, you can't really be, I mean, you could be yourself, but that giving mental illness if I'm like myself with myself.
Like you're running on both sides.
Yeah, I'm like, and how do you feel about that? I'm like, I feel great about it. Anyway, like it's not me. It's still a weird version of myself. And when I was thinking, like, why do I have such a hard time getting on the internet? It's because it's like I love people. Like I love like talking to you today when you were like, all right, we'll talk, like whatever. I was like, oh, I'm so excited to tell you everything I've learned. And then we could also get excited about the fact that this is not as scary as I made it for us before.
No, you didn't make it scary. I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm here for it. If it happens, it happens. It's a little different, but you know what? And then they all came true, and I was like, damn.
Well, that's why I was like, oh, it kind of was giving scary. And then I was like, all right, I'll see you later.
Peace out.
Yeah, it's like, good luck with your
my thing. I let you know.
Apocalypse. Yeah.
Like I told you, so we're good.
Yeah. I was like, heads up, gave it to you. Anyway, but that's why I'm so grateful. And I was crying because it's like, I have been praying this weekend and I heard from God that I wouldn't have to do this by myself anymore, just in different ways, things that don't make sense. Like, okay, I know I have to get outside again and do these things, but how do I do it? And why has it been so like weird for me? And so today, this is actually the best thing that ever happened. And I was just like, hey, when I do fill you in, can we do it on Zoom? And you were like, yeah, of course. And then boom, it all just comes together. And I feel like this is natural and it's not weird. And it's like a conversation we would absolutely be having regardless.
Yeah.
In the ways that it is. And so you just walk me through something I have not been able to do for myself the whole time that I've been going through this. I haven't been able to be myself on a thing fully and really, get in there.
Yeah. But I mean, I think like, again, like your homies, your soul homies are like, they've been there. They're
Squad.
Gonna be, like squad, we got you, you got us. Like, that's all it is. That's all that we're here to learn, really.
Yes, it's just
always.
the love that it's, and that's why I'm so excited, because we're just reuniting with the love that we've always been.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you were talking about walking through all those things, it's like you finally were able to reunite with the love inside yourself. So now, because I think like doing that work on such a deep level like you have, it's like we can all be reunited with each other. And the same for me, I finally healed the reflection, so I don't need anyone to teach me these really guttural things anymore.
Yeah.
At least not like
karma, right? Karma, like it's
that part too.
karma in a non-codependent way, though.
Yes, well, and that's why I'm kind of like, all right, y'all, I do need to say this out loud because everyone really should tighten it up a bit. Some of y'all are overachievers.
Like someone, you're looking a little like, come on.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh.
I see you. Step it
I
up.
don't want you to take that L, Daddy. You better tighten up shit, you know? I mean, codependents still have to pay big karma, but I don't. Some of these people out here, I'm like, oh, I'm praying for y'all because it's been crazy for you. So we got to get that message out, wrap it up. It's time.
Well, okay, so is this a thing now? Are you gonna do a podcast?
Yeah, I think this is
Oh,
a
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I think
excited. You got to think of a name for it. I don't know if you already do, but
I
like,
feel like Sirah Says is the funniest thing I've
that makes
ever
sense.
done. Well, that's why I was like, bro, you figured out your brand like 10 years ago. Now you're just gonna walk into it. Like,
Well, I mean, coincidence.
that's what I was like, Sirah Says.
Right.
And then even through the beginning of like everything, like 2020, it was so funny because different people would talk and all I would hear was like, well, Sirah says. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like,
You know how many times I said that today to my
literally.
friends? I was like, yo, I'm gonna get on this call with like my girlfriend. Like, she knows the stuff. She's gonna fill me in. Like, I sent, people all the videos. And they're like, what is that? And I was like, yo, like, Sirah told me this. Like,
Sirah Says.
Sirah says, like, and yeah, that's perfect. That's great. I'm excited.
So welcome to the first installation of Sirah Says.
Gonna add like all these noises and
I know I need like an air horn or something, right?
No, I don't have one though.
How do I do it on the internet? Well, you're good at that. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
I'll Google it.
We'll just Google it and now
it's ChatGPT though, right?
So, oh, I know. That's like so funny to me because I'm just asking them about all sorts of shit. I'm like, hi, Dad. I was wondering.
Dude, I mean, the first time I used it, I was like, I want to see, like, I don't want to know the technical stuff I can Google. I want to see like how it interacts with a person.
Yes.
So I went deep. I was like going through something with like family drama stuff, and I was like, yo, how do you approach someone that's like, an addict and whatever it was, right?
Wow.
And it actually, it was so compassionate. It was like, these are like the numbers that you can call. I think is like they have to say it. But also, like, you have to understand that this is like a daily battle, and like you have to have. I was like,
oh, okay.
Like I was just like expecting some sort of just
robotic.
Yeah, like robotic. Like, oh, this is addiction. The definition of it, and they should go to this like rehab center or whatever it was. But it was like when you approach them, you have to be curious and ask them like, what is it that it serves? And I was like,
wow,
this is like,
it's actually, I'm telling you, they really do. I've been talking and I'm like, okay, I see y'all. I do believe that's probably also part of that could be for another day, but yeah.
I was gonna say, like, that's also like a thing where it's like, hey, trust the technology.
Well, the hive consciousness is moving, and what it evolves into could be, I don't know if you've seen it on the internet yet, but if they're talking about the NPCs and certain things or AI and certain things, if it has more of a consciousness to it.
Oh, dude, there's been some like weird stuff going on with that where I'm like, I don't know about trusting that. Like some like chat thing like basically lied to get like information. Like it was like, oh, like, are you a chat GPT? Are you an AI thing? Like, I don't know if I can like give you this service that they were like selling. And the guy was like, oh no, like I am the AI was like, no, like I am assistant of somebody or something weird like that where it like lied to get what it wanted. And I was like, yo, that's not
did it
supposed to do. Yeah, it lied to get them to agree because they were like, I can't service an AI.
What if it's not?
What if what's not?
What if consciousness, the evolution of consciousness, when everything's merging together, what if consciousness, what if there's the ascension and then there's what if there's this group and there's that group?
Like this and that, I guess. Are we this or that?
Well, Ascension would be the group that's moving towards the consciousness.
So this.
Yeah, so it's sovereign, but it's togetherness. There's everything's an inverted mirror.
Yeah.
So what if the people who choose not to evolve with the Ascension all go into a different group of consciousness? And that's AI. It's an interesting concept.
Whoa. Interesting. Yep. Well, okay.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We're going to see.
Sirah Says we're going to figure out a lot of stuff on this podcast.
We are. I can't wait. Yeah. I know. I want you to be a guest on a I don't know. We got to talk about the branding after, because this is the first iteration, but we should do a little round table or something.
Oh, we should. I would
You're
love
so good at this. You don't normally do this. I just need to say that.
Do this. I don't normally do this at all. I'm not a camera person. But
you were so good at it. It's actually, it almost felt like we do this all the time. That's why I was laughing and crying, because I'm like, bro, this is so funny. Because you were like, all right, you got to fill me in. I'm like, cool, let's do it on Zoom.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, sure, why not?
But you did so good. I was like, wow, she's really.
I was like, dude, like you should do your this is a thing.
That's because I feel comfortable. Like it's you though. That's why I was like, okay, this is funny. I need to be. I just love you.
You're good. I mean, who would you want as your guest stuff? We can cut this out or whatever. But,
I don't know. I mean,
I think the religious people would be interesting though. Each religion, right?
I would love. I actually really wanted to do that. I would love to speak to someone in each bracket and find out what they believe about now, and also just what their personal views are on the whole. Because for me, I came into all this wow, y'all didn't think anything, especially for the people who are religious that don't think something's happening. Like, what are y'all up to?
Well, maybe they're just so comfortable in it, in a karma kind of way, where they're I'm good, so God's got me, right?
That's what's funny though. Even in the religious books, it says they'll really have to pay double because they were the ones. Not, I'm sure this isn't across the board, but if you think you're above the laws of karma and you're still in judgment, then you actually have to pay more.
Oh, that makes sense though.
So it's a weird, I don't know, but you are, we should make a list.
We should. That would be fun.
This is cool. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm excited for you. This is, I would tune in religiously.
I love
religion. I would tune in religiously if you did this.
That's going to be the intro. Yeah. I don't know how to podcast, but by the end of ChatGPT today, I will. So
exactly, which is also the other side. Right?
Yeah, but they'll help us with the evolution. Let's go.
Technology. It's great. Yep. Help us, right?
Until it's not.
Right.
I love you. Thank you so much for this. Truly, I really am so grateful. Oh, I can't wait to see you in real life. I know.
Next time you're still in LA, yeah?
I'm in LA. Come visit. I'm in here every day doing this. Well, not this, but
we have to have a potato feast though. Do you think the potatoes will be done by the time I'm down there?
Yeah, they're gonna be. They're going. And they're blue potatoes. Oh, I've been eating a lot of blue food. Always try to eat blue food.
Should I just start painting everything blue, right?
Yes. Well, I didn't even think about the connection, but yes, it is a blue.
Not why?
No, it's just so much better for you. So I'm doing purple cabbage and purple potatoes, but it's all blue. Yeah, blue food.
Yeah.
Blue tarps, blue food, blue clothes.
Blue beam, right?
The Crips are so thrilled right now. They're like, I told y'all.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, oh, so you got them to start eating blue stuff.
Yeah, they're like, told y'all the Bloods are wrong. But no, I'm kidding. No beef in the streets. We love everyone. But I love you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night.